Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Blair, or the Illuminaughtii, and in today's video we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. Rather than digging into an MLM, we're deep diving into a company that built their empire from private labeling. What that means is a company works with a third-party retailer, buys products from them, and slaps their own label on it so they can make more money from it. They might have a say in the design, some changing aspects of the product, or be able to make a personal order and things like that, but really that's the gist of it. You're paying for the private label when buying directly from the third party is much often cheaper and more similar than you might think. Personally, I understand this business model, but I'm not a fan of it because at the end of the day, I don't want to spend $20 on a name. Some people do, and most people that are buying the Supreme and Gucci labels or other luxury brands are one such folk. But for the most part, people tend to be aware that they're paying for a name or a status symbol just as much as they're paying for an actual product. But what bothers me about private labeling most is that magic word I've said plenty of times before here on the channel: deception. For those of you that saw my Monate video may have already had an inkling this was coming. The company I'm talking about today is Morphe. Yes, the ever-growing makeup company that's worth almost $2 billion. The one that's known for having collaborated with James Charles, Jeffree Star, and of course, Jaclyn Hill. I'll get into who they are and the very murky area of private labeling, and then into some of their cruelty-free status stuff, or I don't know, it's kind of confusing, like maybe they are really, but maybe they're lying. We don't fully know, but we'll take a look at it anyway. So what exactly is Morphe? According to their About page, Morphe started in 2008 for, in their words, the creators, the dreamers, for those looking for killer makeup without killing their wallet. The brand started with brushes, that's what they're all about, before diving into eyeshadows, lips, etc. So we'll start with the brushes too. Now, the company that Morphe is most known for potentially private labeling is a company by the name of Crown. I went into Crown's website as well as Morphe's website and pulled up a few brushes to see if Morphe is really as affordable as they say, just to find out how similar they are. Morphe calls this a chubby buffer and Crown calls it a pro blender. I'm no makeup guru, but to me at least, they look the same, like exactly the same. Black handle, silver metal, black bristles that fade to white. The bristles are both 3/4 of an inch. The only difference is that Crown says they use sable hair as well as synthetic, and Morphe sticks to synthetic only. I found that a bit suspicious because natural brushes are typically more expensive, yet here, Crown is charging $6 while Morphe charges $9. I understand that some people may want synthetic if they're really against animal hairs in their makeup, but considering how identical these seem to be, especially considering the accusations, I'll hold my breath on the promise of the not killing my wallet from Morphe. I won't go on and on about every single similar brush, but my point is that for every single use, you can find a brush with the same use, but cheaper at Crown. You can find strangely similar eyeshadow palettes with way too many shades of brown too. Am I just not using enough brown on my lids or something? Some people have questioned if this is Crown duping or copying Morphe, but I don't believe this is the case. On Crown's beauty website, at the bottom in their About Us portion, they say that they've been in the industry for 35 years. Morphe, on the other hand, is in its 12th year. At the very least, you'd think that Crown has at least the brushes for a longer time, assuming that's the case. Now, I'm not the first person to notice just how similar Morphe is to that third-party company that's not so famous, Crown Beauty. Jaclyn Hill's palette and the OMG Beauty palette from Crown Beauty is probably the best example you can see for what I'm getting at here. It looks like the only standout differences are the packaging. Jaclyn's is matte rather than holographic, but Crown Beauty's comes with a mirror and Jaclyn's does not. Crown Beauty's is $19.99 and Jaclyn's is $39. That's a 100% markup. So, how come Morphe can double the price? Are the shade names and labels really worth the extra $20? The short answer, in my opinion, is no. The long answer is let's take a look at the ingredients. Jacqueline's palette typically has mica listed as the #1 ingredient. Mica is a mineral used in makeup to give it that shine and a youthful, softer look. It's also gathered using child labor in India, and while it's possible that your mica has been gathered by an adult in a safe environment, there's no way to know from looking at a label. The first ingredient in Crown Beauties isn't mica, it's talc. Talc is an extremely soft mineral in clay used to create a silky texture and to absorb oils. Talc also has a chance of containing asbestos because both talc and asbestos can both be found underground. Asbestos is considered an unsafe carcinogen that is unsafe at any level of exposure. It's been linked to cancer and in severe cases has proven fatal. Yeah, beauty industry, not always so beautiful unfortunately, but that's a different story altogether. My point here is that there's only the slightest change in ingredient use in these two palettes. Morphe uses mica first, talc second. Crown switches that up. Otherwise though, I'm really not seeing any huge differences between the two in terms of ingredients they actually use. It seems like the Jaclyn Hill palette has a few more things added to it, but again, nothing worth saying they're different at the core. Just to be sure those swatches weren't faked, I went to YouTube and found a video comparing the two palettes. And don't tell me those shadows aren't identical. God damn. There's no way that $20 to remove the mirror and make it matte is worth it. If you want to pay for a label, go ahead, that's your decision. But if I bought this Jaclyn Hill palette and found out Crown had the exact same thing for $20 cheaper and a mirror, I'd feel tricked. But hey, maybe that's just me.
What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are ya?
I don't even know where to start.
I don't really think it's cool when a brand rips off an idea and a layout and a color scheme from another brand that has actually put the work in.
The comment by the creator in the comments section caught my eye, however. Christina Mue said in the comments that Stephanie Nicole said that Morphe is no longer private labeling. I also found a tweet like that saying that Morphe stopped private labeling around 4 years ago, like 2 to 3 years ago-ish, but this was back in 2018. Even if they recently changed things, it certainly doesn't look that way as of 2017 with this palette. Nevertheless, I headed over to Stephanie Nicole's channel to see if she knows something about Morphe and private labeling that I didn't. The most I could really find in her video to refer to Morphe not using it was when she said that they might be making their own product, or at least attempting to, when it comes to the formula in Original Shadows. So I wouldn't say it's fair to tell people Stephanie Nicole has claimed Morphe is no longer private labeling altogether. Simply that they might have tried something new, but as far as palettes and brushes that they're known for, that doesn't seem to be the case. As it turns out, there were quite a few interesting points Stephanie brought up within that video. One, as far as I can find, doesn't even exist anymore. She said that on the frequently asked page of Morphe's website, users were asking if their brush had a C instead of an M was still legitimate. Now, you can head over to Morphe's website, and in the FAQ section, that question no longer exists. Their brushes are stamped with different letters now, M, G, E, etc., but if I had to take a guess, it seems like back in the day they didn't even bother to keep it subtle and kept the C in the crown brushes. Morphe simply said when answering the question that it was because of rebranding and all future brushes would have the correct lettering. Again, even if what they're saying isn't illegal, why mislead your buyers like this? I'd have a lot more respect for a company that says, we work with a third-party company that stamps them with a C. We'll be labeling them with M's from now on. Because at least that would be transparent. I'm not saying I'd want to buy from them, but there's a shred of respect for telling the truth there. Worse than that, there's also companies in China offering private labeling that have the exact same ingredients, and a lot of these products are looking real similar. Unfortunately, only 2 of the links to these Chinese companies were working from Stephanie Nicole's description. Maybe it's because Morphe isn't good at covering its tracks, I honestly can't say for certain, but there is so much evidence to them private labeling that moments like this make me a little bit frustrated.
What if we do something completely different? 35 shades created by me, but we can keep it affordable because Morphe knows how to do affordability.
Do they really? Because you have a nearly identical palette on the market with nearly identical ingredients for half the price, Jaclyn.
Morphe is the only brand that trusted me this much and was actually able to allow me to create 35 of my favorite colors, my dream palette with the most beautiful finish and blendability for such an incredible price point. They were the only brand.
No, they definitely weren't, because almost the same thing with the same ingredients is on Crown's website. Yes, maybe Morphe was the only brand doing a collaboration with you, the only one that you worked with, but again, and say it with me now, deception. This is making it sound like Morphe did all the work, like Jaclyn and Morphe were the only players involved here, and they really weren't. I don't know how aware of this their creators like Jaclyn or James actually are. I don't know if they think it's Morphe doing all the work on the back end or what the story is here, but Morphe knows. And for the record, there's also that thing with Jaclyn potentially like owning portions of Morphe or whatever. The point is, we know she's heavily involved with Morphe, so chances are she probably does know the truth. So for Morphe to make believe that they're the source, it's really frustrating. Let me be clear, that's not to say that Jaclyn didn't choose these colors. That's not me saying that Morphe has and will never produce their own products from scratch. But it's clear that with a lot of their own shadows and brushes, it's simply not the case. Design-wise, sure, they've clearly had input on making it matte and some final touches, but I want proof if they're the source. Jaclyn has come out and said when people say she needs to speak the truth that Crown stole the palette from her, and she says that Morphe doesn't private label. Judging from when the reviews started on Crown's products in 2018 and Jaclyn's eyeshadow came out in 2017, I can see why some people would think this is, but I wanted a hard fact.
But I've never taken anything that I shouldn't have, or robbed anyone. I'm trustworthy.
Well, let's see.
I had to find evidence, real evidence. As compelling as Stephanie's video was for me, the lack of response from Morphe, the similarity in the products, like, I don't want my videos to be only rumor-based. So far, it was sounding like a lot of back and forth, without facts and receipts. People posted online that Morphe and Crown have worked together, and now they didn't, and no one seems to know why. But then I found it, buried in the depths of the internet, the big boy of receipts. I'm talking page 5 of Google searches leveled of buried. A decision from the National Arbitration Forum about a dispute between Crown Industries and Morphe. From here on, I'm going to use the verbiage in this decision, so for your reference, the complaint was Chris Towell from Morphe, and the respondent is Michael Paviadakis from Crown Industries. Sorry for the butchering. And yes, it's the same Crown, same Morphe, everything. So let's see what this complaint is about, shall we? On January 15th, 2014, GoDaddy.com LLC confirmed by email to the National Arbitration Forum that the MorpheBrush.com, MorpheBrush.net, and MorpheBrushes.net domain names are registered with GoDaddy.com LLC and that the respondent is the current registrant of the names. So the complaint here that Morphe was making, in short, is that Crown was buying websites that were very similar to its own Morphe.com. They owned Morphe Brush, Morphe Brushes, and Morphe wanted them to stop. The list Morphe submitted. Complainant makes the following contentions. 1. Complainant Morphe Inc. uses its Morphe mark for various makeup brushes, makeup palettes, and other beauty items which are sold online at its retail stores or at trade shows. 2. Complainant is the owner of a trademark registration with the United States Patent and Trademark Office for the Morphe mark. 3. Respondents' MorpheBrush.com, MorpheBrush.net, and MorpheBrushes.net domain names are confusingly similar to complainant's Morphe mark. 4. Respondent has no rights or legitimate interests in the disputed domain names, aka Crown isn't known by these names. 5. Respondent has registered and is using the disputed domains in bad faith. In other words, they knew full well what they were doing. Crown never responded to this, so the decision in the end was that Crown would stop using those domain names. So as for this private labeling, I won't say that I have all the answers for sure, but this does seem like strong evidence as to why there would be a falling out between them at the very least.
Not this time. It never happened. It's false. It never happened.
Now, Morphe claims to be cruelty-free. They even have some products that were 100% vegan. However, while some sites, like Free the Bunny, say that Morphe has confirmed they're cruelty-free, others, like Cruelty-free Kitty, have said that their status can't be trusted, and Morphe's given conflicting and misleading products. They don't have a Leaping Bunny status. When I search them, nothing shows up here. As for other websites, people often put them in a gray area. This is not something Morphe should be unsure of, and the question is a simple and important one. People deserve to know if their products are vegan and cruelty-free, to know where they put their money. But when people come to them with questions like, are the finished products tested on animals? Are the products tested on animals in the production process? Do you have documents from your ingredient suppliers to show that they are not testing on animals for your brand or any other brand? Are the products sold in any markets where animal testing is required by local law and regulations? Are the products vegan? Their response is simply, thank you for reaching out to us about such an important topic. We are happy to say that we do not test any of our products on animals. We do not condone animal use for cosmetic testing. We can assure you that all natural materials harvested for manufacturing is done so in a cruelty-free manner. This also includes companies that supply us manufacturing materials as well. Let us know if you have any other questions. Honestly, I've got the same problem with this as Pira does. It doesn't answer anything. It's a copy-paste answer that they probably give everyone with that question, and that feels a little sketchy to me. Morphe isn't certified cruelty-free by Choose Cruelty-Free, Leaping Bunny, or even PETA, which we know how I feel about them. As Rambling Gemini pointed out, they do ship to China, which by law requires animal testing on all products shipped from overseas. If you change your location on their website to China and check their authorized retailers, several locations that say cross-border come up. So how they seem to be getting around that animal testing without the cross-border e-commerce thing, I don't know. Morphe ships the makeup from somewhere other than China to Beijing, adding extra steps to avoid animal testing. Finally, in 2019, we got some answers with the James Charles palette. Looking at the ingredients, nothing seemed wrong to Melanie Roth. She posted an article stating it was vegan. A woman from Morphe customer care told her it was, twice. Melanie asked on 2 separate occasions after a couple readers came forward and said they heard differently. But Morphe claims it's 100% vegan, right? So maybe they were mistaken. Not so. When Melanie used a private email address to ask a 3rd time if the James Charles palette was vegan, Morphe admitted to using carmine in their product. Carmine, if you don't know, is a dye made from crushed beetles. But the worst part is that carmine isn't even listed on the ingredients. So customer service says, the palette has it, tells multiple people it's not vegan, but it doesn't list the ingredients? Not as carmine CI75470, coccinellin natural red 4, none of its other names. This isn't the only instance of this either. Morphe apparently wanted to improve on Jaclyn Hill's formula in her eyeshadow palettes and added the ingredient carmine to it. Jaclyn claimed to have no knowledge of this, which is even more disturbing. Her palettes are something she says she worked so hard on to perfect and spent months to develop, and she doesn't ask a single question when Morphe changes the formula, doesn't ask what's being changed. It's negligent on both their parts. Jaclyn and anyone with a following should know what they're promoting, and Morphe, with their claims of being cruelty-free, are simply lying to their customers. And this isn't a small lie either, to be clear. People can be allergic to carmine, and they're allowed to have values that they want respected. Whether you're a vegan or not, you don't deserve to be misled about a product you're purchasing. Not to mention, why change it? Jaclyn's first palette was so successful, people seem to enjoy it. So why not keep the same formula that so many people can enjoy? If you are vegan, by the way, a little side note here, I'd recommend using doublecheckvegan.com to double check your makeup ingredients. When I plug in the ingredients from the James Charles palette, it says it flagged 2 maybes, but when I put in Jaclyn Hill's, I undoubtedly got the not vegan red button. Even though on their FAQ section, Morphe claims to be cruelty-free, I'm just not buying it. I'm not saying that they're doing insane animal testing in a lab somewhere, But as long as you've got carmine in the products and a history of lying to people, how do you expect anyone to believe that? I think that what concerns me about Morphe's reaction to these videos is how absent they've been. Morphe doesn't address these issues until they're caught. Once people found out about the carmine with Jaclyn Hill's palette and began spreading the word, that's when they found some time finally to make a statement. Not stating why the formula was changed, mind you, only that it was. I'm not saying this makes them the worst company out here, but just like with private labeling, it's a shady topic and a shady discussion. Another issue I'd like to address for a moment is the lack of diversity from Morphe. Last year, Morphe announced that they were releasing a foundation with 60 shades. Under normal circumstances, this would be incredible. Everyone deserves representation and to be able to find their shade. Unfortunately, not everyone is able to with Morphe foundation. Now, this isn't just a matter of poor undertones, the shades being too red or creasing, but to many, this is Morphe's attempt at appearing inclusive without actually, well, being inclusive. Morphe's Instagram until that point very rarely reposted people of color. Their PR list, branding, advertisements, etc. didn't often feature people of color either. While many people did celebrate this move, as it's the largest shade range you can find, I think their lack of diversity in their own advertisement is another little blurb worth mentioning. If you're going to stand for something, whether it's diversity or cruelty-free, it's important that you put your money where your mouth is. They seem to slowly be moving in the right direction here, but I'd rather support a brand that supports people of color from their launch rather than when it just becomes a financial opportunity. In the end, I just don't think Morphe is worth my time. It wasn't worth my time many years ago when I first started to recognize who they were as a company, and they still aren't worth it now. Plenty of people feel as if Morphe is being shoved on them by influencers shouting, "Use my code for 10% off," and I understand that. Feeling an annoying amount of pressure to use a brand that's trendy isn't my style, much less one that's so shady. Not shady as in the shades of eyeshadow, just regular shady, sketchy. If you've watched this and wants to support them as a brand name, I can't stop you. But it's worth knowing what you're supporting and the values you're giving your money to when you make those purchases, especially in an industry like makeup when there's so many better options out there. But with that being said, that's where I'm going to end today's video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I know this isn't a super inclusive video, including every single one of Morphe's mishaps here and there. I know there's a lot more to Morphe. I just kind of wanted to make a little overview about a couple things I find particularly upsetting. So thank you guys again for watching the video. If you guys want more content from me, you can pop open my description box. You're going to find links to all of my social media, second channel for my puppy Casper, and my collaboration channel with Sad Milk. Again, thank you guys. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.